Hello, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you again to our live webinar series from Strategy Up. I want to also welcome today my guest, Emma Menchefski from the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. And today we're going to talk about how the Chamber was able to engage with their customers and with their members through the digital environment in 2020 and what are the plans for 2021. So please, I want you to join me in welcoming Emma, and I will let Emma just introduce herself. I think there is no one better than Emma to talk a little bit about who she is, what she's doing with the chamber, and then after that, I will be diving directly into the topic. So Emma, it's up to you.
Sure. Well, thank you very much. Yes, I guess there's no one better to introduce yourself than yourself. So I've been with the Chamber for 4 years now. I started in a public relations role and I've moved into communications manager. So the Chamber has really supported me in my professional development. I'm passionate about digital marketing, storytelling, and I get to do a lot of that with our members because we have 1,750 of them. So we really try to keep everyone happy. We try to make sure that everyone gets the exposure they deserve. And Mark and I were just talking about that before we jumped on was social media is a huge part of my role as well. So all the things in the space of digital marketing, the Chamber has supported me. So big shout out to them. And I'm excited to be here today.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you so much, Emma, for being here. I really appreciate your time. And I know that it's not easy all the time to be live on webinars. So before we start, as always, I would love to thank our sponsors and strategic partners. I want to thank Agora Office Space. It's the office space where they are giving us the studio where we are broadcasting from in Bedford in Nova Scotia. And our strategic partner, CMO, which is the Chartered Institute of Marketing Management of Ontario. It's an organization which also I am a very proud member of, and I act over there as the Chief Strategy Officer. Having said this, Emma, I will just go to you and say, okay, last year was like a roller coaster, right?
Yes.
It started in a way, but we didn't really expect how it continued. So tell me a little bit how the chamber, first of all, felt this, what I would call the shock waves, and what was the main worries or impact on your members?
Absolutely. So I remember so clearly that day where Prime Minister Trudeau, we were all sitting in the boardroom here at the Chamber and he said, if you can, Canadians, go home. So I just remember that really, really clearly because Patrick Sullivan, our president and CEO, right away said, you heard him, let's start working from home. So a lot of us had already very casually worked from home, a day here, a day there if you had an appointment. So we had the infrastructure mostly set up, but there were some things that we couldn't do from home. So very quickly that day, we spent the afternoon saying, here's what we need to do. Here's the services we need to be able to implement at home, and let's do it. So the number one thing was information gathering for our members, because in those first few weeks, every day there was new stuff. So I remember the wage subsidy, SUS, that we have now started out at 10%, and that just wasn't going to cut it for our members. So we made sure to gather all the important updates on that. And Patrick Sullivan started a group called the Nova Scotia Business Labor Economic Coalition. I think I got that right. We refer to it as NSBLEC internally. So he gathered groups from all levels of government, all the business associations, labor groups, not-for-profits, and he started hosting 3 meetings a week with all of them to influence real-time policy making, to tell government what we thought about their programs. So the wage subsidy was one of the first ones where we said, 10% is not enough. That doesn't even cover taxes. So we need more support. And a week later, let's say, the feds came out and said 75%, and we're still looking at a good wage subsidy today. So we're really grateful for everyone's support on that. But I would say information was our number one shift. And our events, I forgot about our events, because we hosted between 100 and 150 in-person events every year. And that ranged from the smaller, intimate roundtables where we would talk about policy decisions to our 800-person dinners. So neither of those were an option anymore because we were all at home. So we shifted to daily webinars, just like this, to talk to our members about the important stuff coming up, labor law, taxes, mental health from home, that kind of thing.
Very good. So, I think the chamber played a fundamental role at the beginning, I think, in the pandemic and in trying to help small businesses and the businesses in Nova Scotia, because
Mhm.
I am a member of the chamber, and I remember how you were really on the message, on the top of everything. Like you were really leading in terms of trying to make things, or what I would call to make sense out of nonsense, right? So it was
Yes.
like a complete chaos, and you were trying to streamline, to structure, really like the efforts which you have done are amazing. The question is like, yes, you said that you moved to webinars, you moved to online, and this is like the topic of today, is like, how were you able to flip, if you want, the mindset of your members who were, because I was part of it, these after hours, the 4 p.m., 5 p.m. after hours, let's go get a drink and gather somewhere, have a
Yeah.
chat. They were amazing, right? And then all of a sudden we were like all at home, and then we were still like, as business owners, very worried about all these government support programs. We didn't understand what to do, how to do that. And then you had to continue working and say, okay, now we're going onto webinars and
Yeah.
join us on Zoom. And then some people saying like, what is Zoom, right? So the question is, how were you able to bring this knowledge up, at least to your members, to move them from the physical interaction to a digital interaction?
That's a great question. And I'm going to give a big shout out to the team, because teamwork was so key for all of this. We are a really close knit team anyway, but for us to go from speaking to each other every single day, popping over to each other's desk, asking questions, to now be isolated at home on 20 Zoom calls a day when we had never done that before, was tricky. And I will say I was kind of the Zoom trainer in my office, because half of us had used it in some capacity and the other half didn't know what Zoom was at all. So that those first 2 days I was on Zoom calls with most of the team, explaining how things worked. And I didn't know how to host a webinar, so the events team learned how to do it. So I'm going to use the expression fake it till you make it, because
Uh-huh.
we definitely did that. But the events team was on it right away. They said, how do we host an online event? So they just did the research, which we were all able to do because we were each supporting each other in our roles. But events all of a sudden had no events. So they said, well, what can we do? And they went to work. So that was on them for being independent and go-getters. And
Yeah.
yeah.
I totally understand this, because, again, we all had to jump on the digital bandwagon, if you want, and trying to go with the flow. But many of us didn't know how to use these tools. And again, one of the major challenges are to bring audience, right? And to come and say, listen, we're having the webinar. It's good for you. I know that you are at home or probably distracted. Now you have the kids around you, whereas before you were in the office and you had no one next to you, or you had also the dogs and your pets, and like the whole chaos of just being at home and trying to work from home. So what kind of communication, or what we're trying to give to our audience today is like a real life experience about how a Chamber of Commerce and the Halifax Chamber of Commerce was able to handle this information, and how to educate in a way the members about embracing the digital innovation and the digital move, right?
Yeah.
So how did you do that? How hard or how easy it was?
It was both of those things, actually. It was easy and it was hard because they didn't have an option. So it was easy in that way that this is your only option. We need to move forward with this. But like you said, a lot of people just didn't know these tools. So first we had to figure it out for ourselves. I remember going back and forth with the Zoom account manager saying, and how do I do this? And how do I do that? And they kept sending me to the support center. I'd say, no, I just want to speak to a person. But at that point, we weren't big on customer support. So I think us doing it, you mentioned leadership earlier on, us just doing it and figuring it out and then relaying those resources kind of laid the groundwork for some of those members to say, oh, okay, so I should be on this platform. Here's how I should do this. And I think hosting those webinars and sending out those emails saying this is where you need to be and this is why, just showed them the way. And we're very reliant on our members. We do a lot of user generated content. So our members submit to us for business voice. They help us write speeches. They do a lot of great work. So we try to amplify that because we're a small team here. So the more we can rely on their knowledge, the better. So we had members come in who were experts on taxes and say, I'm going to get this subsidy. What does that mean for me next year? So right away, it was a two-way street for sure.
Yes. Yeah, as I said, you played a fundamental role in providing quality information. And I think you didn't have the chance or the choice of not being, how to say, up to the level, right? Because
Yes.
everybody is relying on you, and then tomorrow say the chamber told us, and then if it is wrong, then it's on you, right?
Yep. Yep, there were a couple sleepless nights, but that's okay.
So, to go back to the topic, and we say, okay, we went digital. So tell us a little bit about the different programs which you did online so that you kept your members engaged. Because also we understand that, especially by now, maybe at the beginning in early 2020, or like in around March, April, May, June, when we were still in the middle of this crisis, um, we didn't have this what we call digital fatigue, or now people are calling it the Zoom fatigue, right? Like no one wants to stay on screen. So at the beginning, how did you segment again your services and your digital events so that you kept all your members engaged and trying to get all the audience as well online?
Yeah, it was basically daily, no, hourly brainstorming sessions. So we looked at what we were offering and we said, how can we shift this? So for some things, like the 800-person dinners, that was a little bit trickier. So we started with the smaller events, the luncheons, and we said we can still host things like this. They just have to be virtual. And we looked to other chambers, we looked to other organizations, and we said, how are they doing this? So we invested in Zoom, was really our first big move. And then we stopped doing our print magazine. As our partner there. I mean, there were no ad sales last year. Nobody had money to invest in advertising. So we had to switch over to a digital magazine, which we were lucky there because we were already building the magazine digitally, of course. We were building it, but we weren't doing it in-house. We had a publishing partner who was doing that. So we had hired an NSCC student before the pandemic was even percolating at all. And he came on and he took over the digital magazine. So that was a huge piece for our members because that's what they want to see, is they want to see themselves in business voice. We want to recognize them. We want to celebrate what they're doing. So that was a huge piece for us, but it really was just using the Adobe tools. And then we have a really strong website that National built for us, National Public Relations here. So we got that just in time, just in time to be ready to launch a lot of things. So our website was a huge tool for us. And a lot of that was already in place. So we were lucky there. And we also looked at launching a podcast, which turns out you need more than one person to run a podcast, because I tried for a few months and it was just too much work to do along with me, but we are looking at relaunching that this year. So that's exciting. And we used a free platform called Zencaster.
Yeah.
So one of our members who produces podcasts, Outpost East, he's now called, he reached out to me and said, would you be interested in doing one? Here's how you would set it up. He helped me get it all set up. And then we ran it for a few months, and then the work didn't slow down. So I didn't have a chance to really focus on it. So we are planning on relaunching that this year. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I can imagine how tough it is to handle all this. I can tell you, like, even for this live webinar series, which I am running, right? So again, like, we are a small business. We are trying also to be visible, and we're doing this webinar. And I can tell you that we had huge positive response from the audience and from the market and from our business partners. Like, just to tell you, like, we are already fully booked until end of May. Like, we have already guests committed until end of May. In 1st of January, I already had people committed until end of March. So this is really amazing, because you understand how the market is still hungry for sharing information. And I think going into podcasts could be very interesting, because then you can listen to them everywhere, anywhere, right? And you can stay in touch. This is really amazing. And so you mentioned a couple of tools, and actually I want to ask you a question. So when you said that you got someone from NSCC, so does it mean that you created one more job, even if it was temporary?
Yes, technically, yeah. So NSCC, the PR program, the public relations program, they have really, really strong students. They have an incredible instructor, Shelly Murphy. She runs the program. She runs just a really, really good program. So this student had reached out to me in the fall, actually, I believe, and he said, I'm interested in doing a placement. You don't officially list with us. Would you be interested in having me on for 6 weeks? And we said, yes, of course, 6 weeks. We love hiring students. We hire a student every term. So we said yes to that. Then the pandemic hit and he said, do you still want me? And we said, I think we need you more than ever. So he actually still works here. So he's coming up on his year anniversary. So yeah, we created a position for him and he stayed on, and we were able to do that thanks to a lot of federal funding and the wage subsidy. So we were able to keep him on, and I hope we keep him forever because he is a really strong asset to our team. But yeah, we were able to add an additional person, and that was all thanks to those great programs out there.
Yeah, so you know, I just wanted to emphasize on this because during the period where probably everybody was trying to think, okay, what should I do with my employees? You were trying to bring even some more people on board so that they help you, because you understood the importance of going digital, right? And I think this is really a great vision when someone can see the need and not say, oh my God, this is cost, now I cannot do it. Although we can understand that you got it maybe through programs, but still it's an effort and it's like bringing someone on board. So for sure, I think the digital era is here to stay for a while, right? I think the pandemic just gave it a boost, gave it a tremendous boost. So now, for example, what kind of online events you still have, or did you move a little bit back to what I would call offline events, given that Nova Scotia is really handling the pandemic in an amazing way? I think, last time I was talking to some friends, I said probably we in Nova Scotia are not living the reality of life because we don't really understand what other provinces and what other countries are really facing in terms of lockdowns and whatever. So tell me a little bit, where are you today, and what are you still offering online, and if you moved also some of the efforts offline?
So we have been following the guidelines extremely closely, and I laugh at your comment about friends all over the world, because I have friends all over the world who say, you're doing what? You're going to restaurants? You're leaving your house? You're walking your dog? I mean, some people are still fully in it, and we have been really, really lucky and consistent and hardworking to keep those cases down. So last summer was one of our best stretches of really low cases. So we decided it's summer, the weather's good, we'll try a couple outdoor offline events. So our business after hours, our monthly networking events where members come and meet the staff, they meet our affinity partners, they learn about the chamber, and they get a chance to promote themselves a little bit. And these are always very well attended, somewhere between 100 and 150 people every time. So we thought, let's try one of these. They're easy to set up. They're really accessible for people. We go to a local restaurant or hotel or other venue, and they host it for us. So we did our first one. I believe it was the Residence Inn downtown. So they have a rooftop where you can fit about 50 people social distancing. So we opened it up to 50 people. I think we had around 30, which was the perfect amount because we had some staff there as well. So we did host business after hours networking, but it's tricky to network with your mask on 6 feet away. So we have tried a couple of virtual online networking events, and those have worked really well. But our biggest, I'm going to say biggest accomplishment up to date is Wonder Women a couple weeks ago. So that was February 19th. That's a conference that we've done for the last 3 or 4 years now.
I saw it. It was a great success.
Oh, good. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It was like even the news after the event, I can tell you, it's like lots of positive vibes around it.
Good. And this is why we love this event. You just come away smiling. It's just a bunch of really impressive women who get up there and tell their stories and talk really openly. So this was supposed to be in December, and it was supposed to be an in-person event. And then right around November, we started to get that a little bit of community spread, a little bit just of an increase in cases. And I mean, still comparably with the world, we had almost nothing, but Nova Scotia's been really good at their response. So we followed their guidelines, we shut it down, and we said, why don't we host it virtually? We're just going to pick a date. We're not going to keep tempting people with in-person events. We're just going to say it's virtual, and we're going to move forward with it. So we actually were able to host it a hybrid version. So you saw the speakers on stage. They were there in person. They were socially distant. They were able to stay and enjoy the entire event, but it was only the speakers. So we didn't have couldn't have been more than 20 people in the room, and everyone was distance, and they had masks on until you got onto the stage and you were allowed to take your mask off. And that just created the feeling of a real life event. So I'm glad we were able to do that, because the speakers had a great time. They were so glad to be, outside of the house, as we all are most days. So they were able to get up on stage and still feel that presence. There's just something different about being on a stage versus sitting on your chair, on your computer. So I'm glad we were able to do that, and we had a really great time.
Yes, definitely. It's like sometimes we are really missing the real interaction, right? And here I want to go to one question, which probably I couldn't yet crack this problem, and I don't know if you have the secret sauce for it. Before the pandemic and when we were talking about business networking, right? So the most important part probably of going to an after hour gathering or even any networking event was not just to listen to the speakers and to follow just the program. It was more about while grabbing a cup of coffee, I might meet someone whom I have never met before, and we start a discussion, and then this discussion might become either a friendly acquaintance, right, or it might become a business deal, right?
Hmm.
Now the problem with the online events, and this is what I noticed, I've been following the online events of the chamber, of many other organizations here in Nova Scotia, and even in international events. And the problem is that, for example, let's say we have this webinar today. I can guarantee you that 90% of the people who logged in probably 3 minutes after we started. And
Hmm.
maybe 90% of them would leave 2 minutes before we finish. So there is no more this room for us to mingle and have this random discussion.
Yep.
So my question is, and maybe I don't know if you thought about it, but this could be a great idea for the chamber. How to create an online event for only mingling, right?
Hmm.
For only rubbing shoulders, for only having a discussion, having like in a way a virtual cup of coffee where I
Hmm.
would have the same quality discussion, which I am not able to get it anymore online. And
Yes.
you know that lots of small businesses really rely on this kind of business development technique so
Hmm.
that they can increase the size of their network. And today, this is a big challenge. So I don't know if you have an answer for that, just like let's discuss about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been trying since last year to come up with the solution. So a couple months ago, we did host the business after hours, the virtual after hours. I think it was late afternoon. We hosted it with BNI, Nova Scotia, and what we did was breakout sessions. So we got a lot of feedback, and we're going to host another one because everyone was really amped up about it, but they said the same thing. We want those more one-on-one conversations. So how we did it was we did those preliminary introductions, and then we moved everyone into random breakout sessions. So we tried to mix everyone up. It's impossible to do that entirely on Zoom, but we did our best. So everyone got, let's say, I think it was 2 minutes or a minute to introduce themselves. So you learned a little bit about that person. I think we did virtual LinkedIn connections or something. You post your link in the chat and then everyone connected that way. So it was nice that people got to meet a bunch of different people, but you didn't really get to interact. It was more you learned about this person. If I want to learn more about them, I'm going to follow up with them on LinkedIn. So we haven't quite mastered it yet, but we are also partnered with Blue Door Group, and they do 40 cups of coffee. So they've been hosting those weekly, I think, in the beginning, and now they're moved on to monthly, and that's decent networking as well. They put out a topic, and then people have a chance to respond, and then you can comment on that. So they try really hard to manage that one-on-one conversation. But it's tricky. It's hard with virtual, even just this back and forth, right? We kind of have to pause, and then you say something, and then pause, and then I'll say something. So it's hard to master that. It really is. But I think the breakout sessions gives a good opportunity when you've got a big group and you can kind of narrow that down a little bit.
Yeah.
But no secret sauce.
Yeah, exactly. And one of my challenges in even doing so is that sometimes you tend to build a stronger connection when you are one-on-one on a private discussion. So even if you are in a room or in a private room with more than one person, and you are always minding who is around. Do I have a competitor in the room? Is there
Mm-hmm.
someone who is like a service, maybe a service provider to one of my competitors? How much I can say, right? And it's still very different than the personal touch, physical
Yep.
interaction, right? It's like, and as you said here, we need to pause, we need to, the flow of the discussion is a little bit more robotic, I would say, rather rather than fluid and easy. But as much as we can, we're trying to make it, like normal chat, like as if we're sitting having a coffee. Actually, I have my coffee every time on all my
Oh,
my
perfect.
webinars. I drink my coffee very, and I take a sip while you are talking. It's the same. Like I'm trying to make it like normal out of this abnormal situation, right?
Yeah.
So now to go back, I know that you have a platform. I am a member, so I log in. You have a marketplace, you have this kind of digital assets, which you already had before. So tell me a little bit how you are now capitalizing on them, how you are trying to push them forward so that you help your members to use this kind of assets, which existed already, but maybe they were not so heavily used for whatever reason. And based on your experience, are you seeing a higher traffic on your marketplace and on your digital assets?
Yep, absolutely. We are. We're really lucky. We have a really strong CMS system. It's an internal one. It holds on to our database. So we have a really large amount of contacts. And before we would kind of only email one person from that organization. And in March, we found out that everyone wanted to be emailed because everyone wanted to be kept up to date. So we started doing that and we saw that increased engagement because sometimes the email goes to the CEO. CEO's got a lot to do. They may have missed that email. So now we have the entire team, and the entire team is able to take advantage of the chamber benefits. So now the whole team is looking at our website and going, oh, I didn't know we could do this. Increased social media traffic as well. We've really increased our numbers in the last year. That's also thanks to the NSCC student Mina that I mentioned. We've really increased that engagement, and people are looking for interaction on social media. So the more you put out there, the more people are willing to engage. Not the more, sorry, the quality of content you put out there, the more people are willing to engage. So we did kind of tailor our messaging last year to say, what do the members want to see? They want to see success stories, they want to see information about COVID, and they want to see how we can save them money. So tailoring the messaging was huge, but it was letting people know, it was reminding them that these options are available to them and sending that larger communication.
Yeah, that's really amazing. You know, I've been using your marketplace.
Oh,
It's a good place to be to be on. I think it gives some visibility to at least the members, right? Because this is only in a member only environment. Um, and you know, this could be a great technique to say to the non-members, hey, it's the right time to come and join us, right? Because there are some benefits which probably you will not get if you're not a member, right? And
absolutely.
so having said this, my question now that we are reaching almost, you know, towards the half of our session is, we spoke about the past, we spoke about the present. I want to hear from you a little bit about the future,
Okay.
about what the chamber is, you know, whatever you can tell us. If there are things that are confidential, so please, you know, don't tell about them. But what are you trying to plan, or what are you planning for us in terms of digital online engagement over, I would say, the remaining of 2021? Because I believe 2021 December would be exactly like today. I don't think that we're going to change a lot in terms of social distancing, and maybe these phases of lockdown, no lockdown, open, shutdown, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And so what are you planning for us?
Great question. I'm with you. I think that we are going to be in this life for a couple more months, few more months. So we should just accept that and plan around it. Last year, we would have plan A, plan B, plan C, plan Z. It just went on. And this year, we're trying to look at each initiative as it comes up and say, let's just make a decision and we'll move forward with it. So that's harder than it sounds because we have our Halifax Business Awards coming up at the end of March. It's on March 25th. And we have been planning for some sort of hybrid event. We knew that it was most likely going to be mostly virtual, but we were really hopeful that we could have the finalists in the room. There's 35 finalists, and they really didn't get the full experience of awards. It's very glamorous. They get to go to a photo shoot, they do a video shoot, they're on the cover of the magazine. So we didn't quite reach that same engagement with them this year. So we were hopeful that the event would move forward. And right now we're kind of in limbo because no special events are allowed. So we are planning for virtual, but we want to make it as engaging as possible. We want to make it like Wonder Woman. We want to be able to have people zoom in and offer their speeches, or we video people while they're celebrating with their teams, because that's how the finalists usually celebrate night of, is they bring their teams and everyone's excited. It's just a really fun night. The energy is really in the room, just like Wonder Woman. So we're hopeful that there's going to be some kind of hybrid situation going on, but we're just not sure yet. I am looking to relaunch the podcast this year with a team of more than one, because I think that will definitely benefit us. I was doing everything from planning the content to actually doing the audio editing, and shout out to my partner who is an AV guy, and he did most of the audio editing pro bono. So thankful for him, but he was stuck at home with me anyway, so he had no choice. So the podcast, and then we've also partnered with Simplycast to offer their
This is a
platform.
big one. Can you talk a little bit about this one, please? This is really a huge thing.
Yes.
So elaborate a little bit for our audience to
Absolutely.
understand exactly what it is about, right? Please.
Yes. So this is great time to talk about it because the project is called the Business Digitization Project. So Simplycast has this incredible all-in-one communications automation platform that really does more than I can even list, but basically it's all about engagement, and that's what we're talking about today. So it's all about digital engagement. So you meet someone, a potential client, you're trying to fill that pipeline, and you say, it was great meeting you today, and then you automate those interactions. So I'll use the chamber as an example. We talk to a prospect and we say, are you interested in joining? And maybe they say, not right now, check in again in a month, so we can automate that setup to say, hey, remember us, we met you on this day, and everything is just, it's already placed in there. So this is a really incredible platform, and it would usually cost quite a bit of money. I don't know the exact number, but Simplycast and the Chamber have partnered to offer this to all our members for free for 1 full year. And then the additional year, you only pay usage. So you don't have to actually pay for the platform. You just pay for how much you use it, which is still a massive discount. So big shout out to Simplycast for that. So we are still signing up members. And I think the main thing for them is the communications piece, where when we first signed this project on, it was a lot of people were handling appointment bookings, and people would cancel last minute because of COVID. You had to get a COVID test. You woke up with the sniffles. This was so much on small business owners for them to have to reorganize everything. A lot of people didn't have something in place. So for them to just be able to sign up for this for free, and now the system handles it. You just do it that one time, and now it can automatically say when a cancellation comes in, it sends you a link that says, hey, did you want to rebook? Here's the link. And then the system handles all of it. It communicates with most other platforms, so it's very easy to integrate. And that was a huge help for people. And Simplycast also partnered with the Nova Scotia government to offer the safe check-ins for contact tracing. So if you've been to a restaurant in the last few months, you might have had to text 11011. So that's Simplycast.
Yeah,
so that's something else.
The messages are signed by them, right? We see them.
Yeah, so that's them. So that's another huge thing, was just the contact tracing. So a lot of people have accessed that as well, but there's so much more it can do. So we're excited to keep promoting that, and yeah, we hope more people are ready to go, because we've got platforms to donate.
So in a way, you're becoming the Siri of the small businesses in Halifax.
Oh, I like that. I'm stealing that. That's
good. So can we now create voice commands with Simplycast? This is good ideas for the guys. We say, hey chamber, book an appointment for me, and then all of a sudden the system is waking up and booking an appointment, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna call Saeed, the CEO. Yeah. I'll let him know. I'm taking notes here. Okay, that's good.
Then you would compete with the Android platforms and with the Apples, and then you never know. Huh? You will become maybe bigger than them.
Yes, absolutely. Oh, he would love that. He would love that. Okay, that's what we're gonna look into next.
Yeah, this is now we are going into the virtual digital assistant. Right?
Yes.
This is going to be provided.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want royalties out of whatever idea Simplycast is going to get out of this. I'm joking with you. Yeah, but honestly, I think this is what we need. This is what we need. We need to bring new ideas, new digital solutions that really bring value to the members, to our organizations, to the community. And this is how we are going to get out of this crisis even stronger, right? Because if we want to just sit in our own cocoon and, in a way say, time is tough and let me wait between my four walls until all this is going to pass.
Yeah.
I don't think that many will survive this way. You just need to go push forward and bring solutions that are really going to help in what we call today optimize the processes, right? So that you can focus on your core business. Because now with this kind of solutions, like you removed half of the problems, right? Which is like, the small follow-ups that are time consuming. And this is what customers need, right? This is amazing.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit, I am interested about the podcast. Are you going to focus on a specific area or topic, or it would be like every week or every month, like more random discussions about what's happening at that time?
So last year, and this is part of why I tailored off a little bit. We focused on COVID-19, so it was very much about how businesses were adapting. We had interviews with government officials who said, "Here's how this works." We talked about, the new subsidies, how the taxes will work. So similar to our webinars, but we really wanted to focus it on navigating COVID-19. But I think in the future, we'd like to shift that a little bit, and I want it to be an extension of Business Voice. So we talk to businesses about their successes, their challenges. We link in some policy as well, because a huge part of our work is policy and government relations. So I'd love to do a little bit of that as well, where we get into those more candid conversations. Maybe we have some debates like we would have if we hosted the mayor or the premier, and we would ask him those tough questions. So I would like the podcast to be a little more broad and really representative of our entire membership. So what are they looking for? Once again, they're looking for information. They're looking for us to advocate on their behalf to the government, and they're looking to hear more about other businesses in the community who are doing things well or who are looking for support on certain areas.
Very good, very good. So, you as a chamber, probably you are not probably you are definitely in touch with many of your members, and out of your experience in your discussions with the different members, and I want to always focus on the digital needs and the digital era, and I don't want to talk about the traditional solutions. What were the major needs which you have noticed that the members are really looking for, and where the chamber either was able to offer it directly or to bridge by saying, like the same way you did with Simplicast, maybe you found someone else and say, listen, they do this, they do that. So I am more interested more in the needs rather than who, because we're not here to promote people. We're not here to just talk about random brands and names, but more about what did you feel as the major needs in the digital environment that is coming out of your members?
I think engagement was a huge piece, and I'm laughing because that's what it says directly behind my head. So it feels like I'm cheating a little bit, but that was a huge piece because, like you said, those little follow-ups, those are so time consuming, and our members are 83% small business. So we're looking at the majority of these 1,750 members have one or two employees. So for them, they don't have the capacity to run the 4 social media accounts, to send that email to the 10 people they've seen today. They just don't have that capacity. And with the pandemic now, their communications have tripled almost. So like, here's the protocols you need to know. Please fill out your safety sheet before you come in. Please confirm all of this. I just think of when I go to the dentist, I have 5 phone calls before I get to the dentist. And then I get to the dentist and they ask me all the same questions and they take my temperature. So there's so many steps for these people. And even the dentist, most of them are small businesses. They don't have 50 people working for them. So for them to access something that was cost friendly, because right now we're all on a bit of a money crunch, for them to access that piece of equipment, to be able to engage with their people a little bit more. And that's what I think most people wanted, was just that engagement, whether or not it was just we miss interactions, or was it actually filling the rest of that pipeline and saying, we're going to convert you into a customer, a long-term customer. So that was something we saw quite a bit, was that engagement piece.
Yes, I agree with you. And this is probably what I was also talking about, is that when we were going to online events, the before and after are now not very existing anymore, so that you engage, right? And when you are into the event, you need to always be mindful about the audience, and then you don't want to take lots of time of others. If you have a comment, it's very brief. Sometimes people are camera shy, right? So you see most of the time people turning off the camera, and then you see the voice, and then you have this disconnect, who is talking and who's, and really this, instead of bringing us together, this is starting to build even more and more barriers to communication, right? And to comprehension as well. It's very important, right? Because part of the discussion is verbal, non-verbal, and then when you have this kind of mix, it's all somewhere in the air, right? Trying to understand what's going on. This is really, and I think this is what you're trying to do, and I hope that your podcast would be as successful as anything else you have already done. I am sure you're going to nail it, so I am not worried about it.
Thank you. Yes, I laugh at what you said about creating those extra digital barriers, because in the last year and prior to the last year, you're emailing with people back and forth, but a lot of these people I had never met before. So now we moved from emails to Zoom meetings. And I said, oh, I've never seen your face before. This is exciting. So in that way, it almost brought me closer to some of our members, because I never would have had that conversation with them. Maybe it would have been a phone call, it would have been an email, but we took the time to meet virtually because we had that little bit of extra time. I didn't have to take 20 minutes to drive downtown and find parking. I could meet with them right here from my desk or from my living room, depending on the day.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So, the digital tools at some point, they made us, they made our life a little bit easy, right? From the other side is that you say, okay, for how long, right? I want to go back to what is known as normal, right? Because everybody is talking that we are in the new normal. In my opinion, the new normal didn't yet arrive. We are still
True.
yeah, this is probably a new normal version 0.1 draft number 1.
Yes. Yes, we have many more generations to go before this flattens out. Yeah.
I totally believe so. We still didn't really find the right fit for us based on what's happening right now. So I just want to have to follow up again on the questions and to understand. So if today I am not a member, and let's, usually I don't like to do it, but for the chamber, I want to do it. I want to promote a little bit, right? Let's play the game and tell me, if I am not a member, why I should be a member, why I should say, you know what, it's a no-brainer. It's not about the money, what the chamber is going to give me.
Okay, I really hope our sales manager is not watching. So fingers crossed that she's not watching, but I'm going to do my best here. So we have kind of 4 pillars that we really focus on. The first is the communications and exposure piece. So again, I said a lot of our members are small business. That is the majority of our membership, and they don't necessarily have the advertising dollars or the capacity to be promoting themselves in a really large way. So they get to come to our events, they meet people, they make new connections that way. They have our magazine, which is mainly free advertising. We offer discounted advertising and some other things. There's lots of other opportunities for them to meet people. Our webinars, so those are all free for people to attend. So now this is creating a large audience for a company who may not have a huge audience right now. So there's that. There's the policy piece. So when you become a member of the chamber, if there's an issue, red tape is the example I'm going to use. If you're having a big red tape issue, you can come to us and say, here's what I'm dealing with, and we take that straight to government. We have one-on-one conversations with them probably daily, and especially now with the NS Black group I mentioned, the advocacy group. So this is something we're able to look into deeper for you if you're having any issues with opening a business, or I'm trying to remember the example if I have my policy analyst here. There was something about signage last year. There was someone running into a big issue. They just couldn't get their signs up because of all this red tape someone had put in place, the municipality had put in place. So we worked with them for, I won't lie, it took several months, but we worked with them and we were able to guide them through that process. So that's one of our other biggest offerings. The third one, which I probably should have started with, is cost savings. So we have a variety of ways to save our members money. We have the marketplace that you mentioned, where members offer each other discounts. So I often use that for hotels or restaurant discounts. That's my favorite. And then there's also our affinity partners. So if you rent a lot of cars, or if you process a lot of payments, there's a variety of affinity partners. If you want a group health plan for your employees, we have one of the best. Well, I'm going to say the best. I'm going to say it. The best group health plan.
Say it. Don't be shy about it. Go ahead. Yeah.
You gave me the platform. Now I'm doing it. So it's the Chamber's group health plan administered by Ontario Financial. And I've been on the health plan since I started here. And I will say this year, I felt I was spending a little too much money on my health plan. So I did some research, and I am not spending too much money. I'm spending the perfect amount of money because we have incredible, incredible benefits. And I'm a very injury prone person. I'm half blind, as you can see. So this is a really good health plan for someone like me. So I mentioned 3. Yeah, I think I have them all. And then the networking piece, where you're just meeting people in the community, because our events attract everyone from me, like a mid-level employee, to the CEOs of Halifax. There's a little bit of everyone. There's international students that come to our events. So you've got this really, really broad network, and you're just not, once you're a chamber member, that creates that connection piece. So you meet someone, go, oh, you're at a chamber event. Are you a member of the chamber? And now automatically you have something to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And if I am to count the services which I used already, is I definitely, well, I am a big fan of your Business Voice magazine. I think
Oh,
it's
thank you.
yeah, and I use the service. Like, I was able to publish a couple of articles in your magazine.
Hmm.
You published for me in the members in the news, like when we did
Hmm.
something new, when we announced our partnership with the CIMO, which is one of our partners
Yeah.
for this webinar in Ontario. So, and I remember very well, and I think this is when the chamber pushed our communication without even asking you, right? We just put it on in the magazine, and then all of a sudden we did our own social media posting, and then I see the chamber is sharing, and it's liking. I say, oh wow, seriously, this is really amazing, right? And and this is probably just before going live. We were talking about that this is the value which you get when you don't expect it, right? And this is what we call it, in pure marketing terms, because I am a marketing guy, what we call the customer delight, right? Is when you offer something to the customer, which is for free, and they were not expecting it. This is really called the customer delight. And sometimes, even in restaurants, the customer delight is this small candy which they give you while paying the check, right? Where you put it just with your slip, and now, oh, my bill is $200, but I am happy because I got a free candy, right?
That's good marketing.
Yeah,
That's really good.
and actually, we're now going on a segue, but I would just tell you one thing, that there was a research done, and there was a direct correlation between the number of candies that were put on the tray with the increase in the percentage of tips for the waiter.
Really?
Yes. So now, if we have anyone who is working into the restaurant business, put
Yep.
more candies on the tray,
More
and probably
candy.
will get more tips.
Okay, wow. That definitely works on me. I can guarantee that. It
Yeah,
definitely works on
yeah,
me. Big candy person. Yeah,
yes.
that's very funny.
So there is a famous video on YouTube talking about the art of persuasion, and
Yeah.
they were showing this kind of statistics, and there are some techniques that are really increasing the tips exponentially. So,
Oh, okay. I'm gonna have to watch that. That's
yeah,
good.
you see, so. So yeah, like I use the Business Voice a lot. I
Hmm.
attended lots of your events before the pandemic, like into the after
Yeah.
hours and this kind of stuff. I attended some of the events online, to be honest, just because, again, one of the major issues is that we had, and I would say it here, we had lots of conflicting agendas. We had the chamber and 10 other organizations doing nice events with good names, good people, great topics, but they were all on the same day at the same time. It's like as if no one knows how to coordinate, right? And it's like,
Yes.
we are a small market, we are a tiny market where we need to, how to say, benefit from everyone. And then all of a sudden we see that everybody is competing on the same day, on the same time slot. I say,
Yep.
like, seriously, like, and,
Yep.
and this is
That
one
was
of
a
the
big
major issues of going digital, right? Because there is no
yes.
more this real interaction. So
No.
maybe planning and programming already got disrupted, right?
Very much so. And I think when we were hosting the larger in-person events, there's 2 or 3 in May, right? There's those big ones that happen every year that we know are coming. So we coordinate with them and we kind of plan out our events that way. Sometimes it can't be avoided, but with digital, it's every day, it's every hour. So it was getting much trickier. And we would be, I hate to say competing, but we would be kind of competing for audience members with larger organizations, so national level organizations. So we weren't necessarily coordinating with them. But I think after the first few months, we would just keep an eye out. So we would look at those event calendars of the Halifax partnerships, Discover Halifax's, CFIB, those kinds of folks who are also putting on great content. And we would just say, what do they have coming up? What can we promote rather than try to do ourselves? So in those first few weeks, it was tricky because we wanted a webinar every single day. So that's 5 webinars a week, 20 a month. That was getting, there was just no way to keep that up. So we did that for the first couple of months and people were attending. The numbers were huge every time. They were engaged, they were asking questions because everyone was confused. Everyone got laid off. So they just needed that attention. And then as we went on, yes, there was increased competition for audience. And we've settled into a nice pattern now where we get maybe 60 to 75 people per webinar because we've decreased our numbers.
Okay.
We promote our members and our partners' content. So if they have something coming up, that we think is really valuable, we know our members will find valuable, we'll promote them rather than try to do it ourselves. And maybe in 6 months from now, the members will say, we'd like to do something with you on this topic. And we'll say, absolutely, because people are always going to have questions about the subsidy and how it affects your taxes. And CRA just came out with a new form that everyone needs to have that a lot of people don't know about. I can't remember all the details, but it's BD27. So go to our website, the resources page, and that'll help you. I'm just not good at taxes, so I don't want to give any false advice.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive topic, right?
Very sensitive, yes.
Yeah, of course. So very, very good, Emma. We are reaching towards the end of our discussion, and I think I am sure we can stay for hours, right, and talk about even more and more exciting news and the stories about memberships and members and how we engage and how the plans are infinite plans, right? So before we just finish, what would be your final thoughts about how you think over time the chamber or the likes of the chamber, like the organization, the associations who are engaged in the community, will be able to win the engagement race, if you want, because this is now, I would call it's not anymore now membership race. It's more about the engagement race, because you can have 10,000 members, but if only one person is showing up to a webinar, this means that we have a problem, right?
Yep.
So when we want to win the engagement race, and what I also talk about is that sometimes we have lots of conflicting agendas, right? I love the chamber, and I also love the other 5 or 6 organizations which I am member of, right? And now I have like a dilemma. Where should I be? Should I be 3 minutes on each one of them, or should I be only on one and then forget about the other? So what are your thoughts about how we potentially can solve this, and where the chamber is going to take us in 2021?
Yes. Okay. Great question. So I read a really interesting article a little while ago about professions and how they've become so niche that now everyone is so into, let's say if you're a digital marketer, you're not just a digital marketer, you're an SEO specialist, you're an analytics specialist. And now we've become so niche that we almost don't get the broader picture anymore. So I think in the future, we find those key professions and we work together. So we mentioned collaboration, and we saw it big this year between government, between businesses, between community groups. There was collaboration when we were making these policies, these local, and not everyone agreed all the time, of course. There's a lot that we would still like to see happen or removed, and restrictions lightened or increased depending on the case, but the collaboration piece was huge. So finding those people who have those strengths and promoting them. And the engagement piece is tricky because we want to just send emails all the time. We want to be in constant communication, but this is one of those cases of it's quality over quantity. So our social media strategist, Mina, that I mentioned earlier, he's been taking a big look at our social media channels and saying, we're just pushing out a lot of content because we have a lot of stuff going on, but we need to tailor that a little bit to say, okay, what's the priority for this week? And let's talk about that a little bit. And then the following week, what's the priority? So we need to narrow our messaging a little bit, really focus on what's of value to the members. And it comes back to that, the quality over quantity. So if you're sending out 10 emails right after someone didn't complete a purchase, you're not getting engagement, you're just poking them, which seems obvious, but we definitely used to do that. So I can say that. So it's just about, like the higher level of engagement.
Yeah. I totally agree with you, because on Sunday, I tried to subscribe to someone's online course or whatever. And when I subscribed, I received 6 different emails just after a minute. And each email has probably 3 pages of information. And I said, like, do you really expect me to read 6 emails? Each one is a couple of pages, lots of links, like click here, click there, see this, watch that. And guess what? I deleted them all. I went to the unsubscribe and I just unsubscribed. Like, it took me 30 seconds to subscribe and 20 seconds to unsubscribe. And this is something which we don't want to have, right? And
no. That's a very fast bounce rate for a subscription.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Very high.
So I totally agree with you. I think the next game or the next field would be the engagement field. And I think it's not about anymore, let me get, of course, at the end of the day, it's a game of numbers, right? You get, the more you get, the percentage of them will be engaged, and then you will have a higher engagement rate. But the idea is that how can we optimize what we have so far? Because we all understand, if I go back a little bit to the economics of doing business, we always know that the acquisition cost is much higher than the engagement cost of a current customer or a current member, right? So,
Yes.
so the idea is that maybe I should now spend more efforts on nurturing our current base and trying to help them to understand why they are here and the benefits, so that we get more engagement rather than having 100 new members in the next, I don't know, quarter. And then, yes, probably it's good for the money, but what would be the retention rate out of that, right? The next year, maybe they will not renew, and then it's another acquisition race. So I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you that all the content, all the digital assets, everything that today we are doing it in the digital era should go towards more engagement with your customer, with your audience, rather than simple acquisition, because it's really fierce out there, right? So when you look at digital marketing, the advertisement that you get is like all over the place. And this is where we want the chamber to shine, right? We want you to to keep on shining. Actually, you are already shining.
We do try, but member engagement is huge for us. So we implemented a program 5 or 6 years ago, right before I came along, called the Chamber Connects program, where we check in with our members, let's say quarterly, I believe it is. And we just say, are you getting everything out of your membership? Is there more we can do? How else can we help you? What are your likes and dislikes? And that has lowered our cancellation rate by, I'm making this number up, but I think something like 15-20%. Like, we really have retained a huge number, even in the past year where people were cutting their memberships. People stayed. We still had a really good cancellation rate, and that's all thanks to those quality check-ins. So not daily, not weekly, but before you get your renewal letter from us, that's not going to be the first time you hear from us. You're going to get other valuable information before
and
that.
This is definitely great. And even I can tell you that a retention rate of like 5% is already a great number. Like, if you are able to get even more than this, or I mean, churn rate, like trying to keep the guys or who are willing to leave and say, no, out of this I am keeping more. So this is definitely, a success story. So with this, Emma, unfortunately, we are reaching the end of our webinar today. I always like to keep it under an hour. So we are at 55 minutes, and probably I think we started even 2 minutes earlier. So I mind a lot the audience and my promise to the audience. So thank you so much. I learned a lot from you today. I am even more confident that the chamber is able to take us where we want to go. It might not be a fast trip or an easy trip, but I know that you are there. You're really doing lots of positive things, lots of great things for us as members. So I want to thank you for this. I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being my guest today. I really enjoyed having the discussion with you. And for all our viewers on Zoom and on Facebook, I want to thank you for being with us. And as always, every week, every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Atlantic time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, we are having a live webinar with great guests. And next week, I will be having a great entrepreneur coming all the way from Nigeria, who was able to build her business over here. And next week on March 10th, we're going to have a great discussion to understand how she was able to build a business and how to build a digital online business. So this is the next topic for next week. So please, if you are interested, register to this webinar, go to our website. You will find all the schedule until March. We'll announce the April schedule around March 15th, so very soon. It's already there. It's already done and dusted. So we have our 4 committed guests for April. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Emma, and have a great day.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.